Hey guys, Coach Sahil here from TumblingCoach.com and CheerCore, and today we're going to talk about the 5 steps that will help you fix 99% of your tumbling problems. Alright, so tumbling problems. Everyone's got them. You got them, I've got them, my athletes have got them. Nobody's perfect. So what I've found, you can also replace problems with corrections. It's the same thing. But what I've found over the years is that most athletes pretty much have the same corrections that I give them over and over again. It's like a set, it's usually the 5, and we just kind of cycle through them because it's one of those things where the base corrections have to stay the same, because if they're not, the fancy corrections just won't even matter. So if you take care of these 5 steps, whether you're a coach or an athlete, if you're a coach, this is awesome, because especially for junior coaches, so if you're a gym owner out there, or if you're like a tumbling director and you have younger coaches under you, and you want them to spot the proper corrections, and you want them to be giving good corrections to your athletes, just teach them this 5-step formula, and it'll be super easy. In fact, it's not a formula. If you watched my previous video, it's actually an acronym. You guys know I love them. So I came up with another one that I like to use. It's been distilled down from thinking about all the corrections we have. So the word is called stack, S-T-A-C-K. Okay, and we're going to be going through each letter so that you can remember what all these corrections are. Now, of course, not all of them will apply to everybody, but these 5 take care of the 99% of problems. And then if you work on fixing them, you're going to have beautiful passes. So let's take care of the first letter. Now, the first letter, S, stands for shapes. You guys know I love my shapes. You guys know that shapes are super important, and if you didn't, well, I hope you watch this video and take into consideration how useful they are. Shapes are the fundamentals of all tumbling. Everything boils down to shapes. So you need to make sure that the first thing you look at is make sure the shapes are correct. So for example, in a back handspring, right? If you're an athlete, if you film yourself, you're watching, does your back handspring hit the bridge position, hit the handstand position? Is there a hollow there? Because if the shapes aren't there, then the skill isn't there. It's not looking the way it's supposed to. Okay. Now, unless you want to do some parkour, which by all means go for it. But if it's cheerleading, gymnastics, right, power tumbling, it's a judged sport. They're judging you for your technique, right? So you got to make sure those shapes are hitting. Shapes are one of the first things I go to. So for example, like if somebody's doing a layout and it's RT or there's a problem with it, we make sure that candlestick is solid. So make sure the shapes are good, and if the shapes are good, everything else will fall into place. That's the first thing you should look at as a coach or an athlete. Okay, now the next letter in the word stack is obviously T. And T stands for tight legs. Tight and together, actually. Okay, both. Because you can't just have tight legs but tumble like this. Okay, we've all seen it. It's no good. Okay, so why do we want to have tight legs and together legs? A couple reasons. Number 1, okay, safety. When your legs are apart, when you're tumbling and you add a lot of force and power, your knees can buckle inward. So it looks like this. Okay. So if that happens, okay, that's really, really bad for the knees. Okay, you're looking at problems in the ACL. So there's a lot of issues that can happen. Okay, so we definitely want to avoid that. So safety is another thing. But the other problem is when legs are apart. Now you want to think of it this way: every couple centimeters or inches that your legs are apart, you have to put in more effort. So people who tumble with their feet together, okay, they're applying all their force into this little spot versus this wide. Okay, so if you're this wide and you're landing, you're gonna have to put more effort. Another way to think about it is like a nail and a hammer analogy. Okay, if I have a nail that's this fat, okay, and if I have to put it through a wall, I mean that's gonna take a lot more effort and power versus just a regular nail, which is has a pinpoint, and you take a hammer and you just go tap tap tap, and it just goes right in, right, without too much effort. Why? Because there's very little surface area. There's a little point, there's a lot of power going into a little point. So when you tumble and you hit that spring floor over there, okay, for it to give you something back, when you hit that spring floor, you want to be as small as possible. Your contact patch with the floor should be as small as possible, and that'll give you tons of power going back. Okay, so in fact, you'll have to try it less. Less effort will be involved if you are tight and together. So if there's anything that you take out of it, that's one reason you should be really focusing on that. And that goes for all the levels, okay? I work with level 3, 4, 5 kids in cheer or gymnastics, higher levels, where, you know, they're working on things like double tucks, double twists, some even triple twists, okay? And when they're working those skills, if their round off is landing like this, okay, like wide legs and wide handsprings, I will take the first half of the private lesson or class or whatever to fix that up. Okay, because if I know if you fix that up, all that extra power is going to go into the end skill. So their double twist will get higher. They'll get more height in their double tucks. They'll have more time to spin around, whatever skill they're working on. So it's super key to make sure your legs are tight and together. So if you're a coach, watch for that. Okay, now the next letter in the word stack is obviously A, and A stands for arms behind the ears, okay? Now, a lot of coaches do say arms by the ears, and that's fine, okay? But I like behind the ears because it really makes the athlete set. And also, it's one of those corrections where pretty much every tumbling skill you're ever gonna need or do needs that correction to happen, right? So if you're a coach and if you're watching anything from a handspring, even a walkover, a layout, standing tuck, running tuck, whatever you're watching, look for arms behind the ears, okay? Because it really opens up the shoulders. So you don't just want this, you want all the way over. Okay. Now the other thing is, if an athlete is not able to get their arms behind the ears, then you know there's some kind of a physiological flexibility problem. I know for me personally, at this age anyway, if I were to tumble right now, or somebody say like me, or someone would make me tumble, because that's what it takes. I know my lats are very stiff, okay, which is the muscle right over here. So what I have to do is I have to take a lacrosse ball, okay, and do my mobility exercises, and I have to stretch out my lats and do all the stuff before my shoulders can open because they're stiff. I'm sure you saw when I put my arms up, you can see that I have pretty stiff shoulders, but they get looser as I do more work on it, right? So it could be a physiological problem. So if you're just a coach yelling at your kids to do arms behind the ears and it's not happening, it just could be that they physically can't do it. So that's something to watch for. But that is definitely one of these corrections that every athlete should be doing and every coach should be watching for. Because if you do, you know, athletes will set higher, tumbling will look prettier, and obviously it'll be safer. Okay, and now we're on to the letter C, okay, in stack, which stands for chin in, okay, keeping our chin in. Again, it's one of those corrections that almost all tumbling skills need. Now, quick pop quiz, okay? I want you to pause the video and tell me if you can remember or if you know some tumbling skills that actually need your chin to go up and not in a neutral position. So take a second to pause and see if you can guess. Put it down in the comment section below. Let's see what you come up with. All right, did you try and guess? Okay, so the skills that actually, you know, you don't need to keep your chin in are for the walkovers, right? The front and back walkover, the front handspring, okay, and the whip back, okay, or the back whip back, whatever you guys call it. So those are the skills where you do need your chin to go up. But everything else, pretty much everything else in tumbling, you need your chin in a neutral position. Even for flyers, right? No flyer needs to do this. Okay, so if you're a flyer, that's another correction that you can apply. Okay, so in the word stack, C is chin in. Now, there are a couple ways to do it if you're having a problem. There are a couple tools that I like to use. One of them is a chin block, which I'll show you just now. All right, so here is a chin block, okay? This is one of my favorite tools to fix this correction. What I generally do is just give it to the athlete, usually it's the back tuck, right? It's the back tuck that's going crazy. So what I do is, you can see that T trainer over there. We'll set up a simple rebound drill where they go rebound, rebound, jump onto the mat in a tuck shape with this under their chin, okay? It's got ribs on it, so it really keeps it, whether, you know, it's on skin if they're wearing sports bra, or if they're like me with a sweater, like it'll stick to their whatever apparatus they have on. So it won't fall out as easy, but again, if they don't pinch, it will fall out. So the reason I like this is I like to do 10-15 reps with it, so it trains their neck muscles to squeeze and you get rid of it, and it does work. It's not magic, but it is as close to magic as you can get. I know I've tried everything like socks, I've tried like foams and sponges, and they're all great, but this is specifically designed for the chin, and it's great for flyers too. So it's one of those extra tools that if you want to get, just check out the link that's popped up below, and you can grab it. And thankfully, in this day and age, we have tools for all the other corrections too. I know we got one more letter left, but before I get to that, I want to show you another tool that I like to use. It's called ankle mags, and that's going to actually help athletes keep their feet together. So I have it right over here. Okay, if you've never seen it before, basically it wraps around their ankles, okay, and it's held together by really, really strong magnets, okay, as you can see. So the good thing about this is because it's magnet based, okay, what happens is these magnets actually do about 50% of the work. So what that means is if these are on each ankles and they come around, let's say for the round off, right, and they actually work on squeezing, then it'll help them. But if they just don't squeeze at all, well, the legs are going to stay apart. Or even worse, sometimes they'll squeeze, and then as they're landing the round off, they'll get loose again. So their feet will start pulling apart. Well, guess what? It'll come apart. So it doesn't do all the work for you. You have to give it 50%, which is what I like. So it trains that muscle memory. Again, one of those tools that if you have the luxury of getting, I would suggest trying it out. I've tumbled with it. It makes a huge difference. I actually like to put it slightly above if you can. You get the extension, and you can put it right here, right below the knee, which I found really effective as well. Because sometimes for somebody like me, I have those legs that kind of go like, I think it's called bull-legged. So even though my ankles are together, okay, I don't know if you guys can see. Okay, so my knees are still apart. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that can generally happen. So when I really squeeze, I can get it to my knee, and that's really, really helpful. And then one other tool, it's called the armbands. Okay, so basically you give this to the athlete. They put their hands here, one here, and it lets them stretch, but only to a certain point. Okay, it stops it. Okay, then they can work their back handsprings, back walkovers. I love it for back walkovers. Okay, I like to just put it on, set it, and forget it. Okay, again, these tools, you can find them in the link below. Okay, they're not necessary, but they're nice to have. Okay, so now let's jump to the very last letter, and of course the last letter is K. Okay, now like the other one, I've set up a infographic, as you can see what K stands for. Can we see there? I don't know if you guys can. It looks a little weird. Okay, so K stands for know your spacing. Okay, this is a correction that I don't see being given that often unless it becomes obvious. So like if a kid is doing a round off and runs into a mat, yeah, okay, we'll work on the spacing. But generally, like I'm watching athletes tumble. I get a lot of videos sent to me, and the spacing is always off. Okay. The other part of spacing you got to remember is it's got to be consistent. So if you're an athlete that's tumbling, it's like if you start in that line there, are you going to land over there every single time? Right? Is your round up handspring consistent? Okay. Because if it's not, let's say you're tumbling off like you guys see that air track back there, right? And there's a mat that you can tumble. There you go. You can tumble onto the crash mat. Well, if your round off handspring is landing, first time you do it, it lands at the edge. Then it lands too far from the edge. Then it lands too close. Then it lands off the edge. So those 3 tumbling passes had 3 different results. How are you going to focus on your end skill, like a back tuck or layout or whatever you're doing? Right? You can't, because you're landing inconsistent. So you don't even have the mental capacity to kind of go for that, because wherever you land, it's going to be off. You don't have enough trust in your spacing. So, and coaches, if you see that in your athletes, don't even work the end skill, right? If I see inconsistent spacing, regardless of what level they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, we stop and we get that spacing consistent. When I see 3 passes that land in the exact same spot every single time, now I know they got it, they know they got it, then they can work on their end skill. Okay, so knowing your spacing is big. So again, stack is one of those things that can really help you out. If you take a tumbling pass and you apply each letter of stack, and that correction is handled, you're going to have a perfect pass, right? Think about it for a second. So, recap shapes. So if you have a rounded back handspring tuck, for example, if the shapes are perfect, okay, if they have tight and together legs, okay, if the arms are behind the ears, if their chin is tucked in, and they know their spacing, what more could you have to possibly correct? Not that much, okay? That's why I said this can fix 99% of problems, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to get this infographic like the last one when I did fast, okay, I don't know if you guys can see, there it is, okay? You can grab it at the link below. And if you enjoyed these videos, you're finding them useful, please give me a thumbs up and a like, and subscribe to this channel on YouTube. I'm going to be putting up more videos, and please let your friends know. So I hope that was useful. I'll see you guys next time.